Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Aretha. Lately I've been thinking a lot about how we combine discipline with flexibility, and I wanted to share some insights that may be helpful to you. So when I think about discipline versus flexibility, I am basically thinking about structure versus adaptability. On the one hand, I believe that discipline is essential for us to achieve our goals. And I'm a goal-driven person. I like to have something to work towards. But even if you're not really into goals, I imagine that you are a multifaceted person. You probably want to make sure that your health is good, but also your relationships are good. You want to make enough money to survive, but you also want to have some time to relax and enjoy your life. So no matter how you look at it, whether you're super goal-driven or not, you have multiple things that you're trying to keep going at the same time. Without a minimum of discipline, it's impossible that all of those things are just going to fall into place on their own. That's where discipline is so helpful. If you had to wake up every day and think about all the things you need to do today to maintain your relationships, to ensure your financial success, and make sure your health is good, if you had to make all those decisions every day, you would never get anything done because there's just too much to handle for one person. That's where discipline and routines make it a lot easier for us to make sure everything is taken care of almost on autopilot. We get into these habits so we don't have to think about making those decisions every day. So on one hand, discipline is fantastic. It's there to serve us. I did a whole video about that. But on the other hand, we have to be flexible. If we are very rigid in how we execute on our routines and how we go about pursuing our goals, we are bound to fail because life doesn't follow our plan. Other people don't follow our plan. Sometimes we don't follow our own plan, and yet we still want to be successful. And in order to be successful, we have to be able to navigate these disruptions and get back to where we need to be. So we have to have a certain amount of flexibility. So how do we manage to be disciplined and flexible at the same time? That is a question I've been asking myself lately. So the first insight I want to share is something I heard recently and I immediately wrote it down. Be clear on what you want to do, but stay flexible on how you do it. Basically, what I took away when I heard that is that we need to be loyal to the goal, not to the methods we're using to achieve the goal. And I can see how the sunk cost fallacy might be included in this a little bit, but we don't want to be rigidly loyal to the way we've done things so far. If what really matters is the end goal, then that's what we need to be focusing on. And we can do so while remaining open to the idea that the way we're currently doing things is not the way we'll always do it. Hopefully, along the way, we'll learn of a better, more efficient way to pursue the same goal. And when we learn about a new way to do things, we have to be willing to let go of our old way of doing things, which sometimes can be hard to do. So be clear about what you want to achieve, but don't be too hung up on how you get there. And if we're open to learning new things, that can speed up our progress towards that goal. So I'd like to share a few applications that I found for this in my own life. One of the pillars of my daily routine is my walk with my dog. And my goal here is simple: get outside and walk with my dog at least once a day. Sometimes I get stuck in how I want to execute that goal. A few months ago when it was cold, it worked really well for us to go out during my lunch break. It fit nicely into my day. It was the time of the day when it was probably the warmest. It gave me a reason to stop working. I grabbed some lunch and then go for a quick walk with my dog. It was perfect. So we got into a little bit of a routine and that became how we spent our days, at least the days I was working from home. But now that it's getting hot and humid, that doesn't work so well anymore. And yet I was reluctant to let that go. It took me a minute to realize that I can still achieve the same goal of walking daily, but I'd have to change how I was doing it. So now we wake up early and go walk first thing in the morning because it's the most pleasant time of the day to be outside. But on the days that I don't wake up early enough to get that done, I have also embraced walking later in the evening. In order to continue with this daily goal, I had to adapt because the old way of doing things simply didn't work. Another way that I've been combining discipline with flexibility is with my morning routine. I have a few things I like to get done in the morning to get my day started right. And now I have added walking to that. So one thing that's been really beneficial is to use my morning routine more as a checklist of items. So if I had a bad night and I woke up late, or maybe I wasn't feeling well, or for whatever other reason, I wasn't able to get everything done before my day started at 8, then I just treat my morning routine items as a checklist. And I give myself some flexibility to work through all the items in the checklist until about 10 a.m. That way, my day didn't start perfectly, but I don't throw away the whole day either because my morning didn't go as planned. So if you have a pretty extensive morning routine and sometimes you struggle with sticking with it, maybe you should treat your morning routine as a checklist and give yourself a little bit more time to get through all of those items. As long as you get them done by noon, you're probably still fine. And the third way that I find myself combining flexibility with a little bit of structure is around my personal goals. Instead of having lofty goals that I will read for 3 hours in the evening or I will write for 3 hours in the morning, if that doesn't work for me, I break it into chunks. So anytime I have a 30-minute break between things or anytime I have 15 minutes between things, I can fit something in that time, something that matters to me. For example, if I have 15 minutes after my lunch before my next work call, I can read a book. And if I find at least 20 to 30 minutes of open time, I will write for my blog. As long as I have an article outlined, I can spend 30 minutes writing out one of the sections of an article. I used to want to block out like a full hour of focus time so I could get as much done as possible. And it's great when I'm able to do that. But on days where my schedule is just a little bit messy or things are just not happening the way I want them to, I allow myself to break that hour into smaller chunks. It's easier to find 30 minutes to do something than it is to make sure I can block out a full hour on a busy day. The next insight I want to share is that when consistency is the goal, we have to set upper limits to the things we want to do for the long haul. For example, if you'd like to exercise consistently for the foreseeable future, you may have to set an upper limit on how many times you will exercise per week. Because if you overdo it one week, then you're likely to not go the following week. So for your long-term habits, think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. So have your minimum, but also set a maximum. And when you hit that maximum, take a break. You don't want to burn yourself out and break a habit that you wanted to keep for the long term. I've never written a book, but I've heard that you need to pace yourself when you're writing a book because it's a long-term project. You don't want to burn yourself out and abandon it. So pace yourself, set an upper limit, and respect it. And the last insight I want to share is that we need to embrace a reflective practice. When we work on long-term goals, the way we set out to do things in the beginning will have to change along the way. This is where that flexibility comes in. Because when you start something, you think it'll go one way, and then you learn things that change your approach. And in order to adjust based on the things you learn, you have to take a minute to realize what you've learned. And that's where reflection comes in. You have to take a pause periodically and look at what you've done so far, what you've learned along the way, and think about what needs to change moving forward. A practice of reflection is what allows us to pivot along the way. If you never take the time to assess how you're doing and what needs to change, then you keep going the way you've always gone, and you may be finding yourself veering off course. Also, when you start a new goal, you don't know everything you need to know about the goal. You learn along the way. So you have to give yourself an opportunity to realize the lessons and analyze what they're telling you about what you need to do moving forward. So discipline is great at setting the structure for how we want to get where we need to get. And then reflection is the missing piece that allows us to embrace flexibility along the way. And I think the goals that really matter to us, especially long-term goals, need a perfect blend of discipline or structure and flexibility or adaptability. I'm curious to hear what others think about this topic. So in the comments below, let me know what you think about the marriage between discipline and flexibility. And how do you use both of these tools to help you achieve your goals? And as always, if you like this video, remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.